Hey you guys, welcome back to Fins and Whiskers, and in this video we are going to go over how to trigger spawn and breed Otocinclus. Now this is a foolproof method. I fully believe and understand the concept of a lot of catfish now being the go-to method for breeding, and since Otocinclus was once described not common to breed in captivity, with this method they absolutely can be, and we can change that. So much like plecos and corridoras, they rely on a rainfall trigger. Now what this necessarily means is not the rain itself. You don't need to add rainfall or rainwater to your tank. What this means is that when it's about to rain, a day before or even a day after, the barometric pressure in your water changes. So if you get your water from tap or a hose like I do, pressure is lower, and this is actually the thing that gets them to spawn. And this is why rainy season is very useful for trying to breed them in captivity, or any time it rains at all. It really doesn't even have to be a lot of rain, as I've done this over and over. It's been rainy season for us here. Now there are many things I want to go over to make this method foolproof. It's not just relying on the barometric pressure or rainfall. Although I can't prove that these other things that I do help the spawning or help trigger a spawn, I do think that they are important to try if you have no luck with just the rainfall. So I'm gonna go over what didn't work for me and what did work for me, and I will include everything so that you guys can try all of what I've done. So for a lot of catfish, not only does the barometric pressure help to trigger a spawn, but also cooler waters, because during rainy season it's usually colder. Now I added ice, and I normally would not recommend doing this for any other fish except Otocinclus, simply because they're just such a cool water fish that they really wouldn't mind. It really couldn't shock them, and because my water is already cool. I do not use a heater, so this extra ice really didn't do much for them. It didn't change the temperature much at all. I was just hoping that it would get a little bit cold in a few seconds or in the moment until the ice completely melts, just for them to feel that and to try and trigger, but that did not work. And I also tried to use a heater, and I made the temperature much higher than I usually keep it. Now I keep the temperature at 71 to 75 Fahrenheit. I don't go any lower and I don't go any higher. Without a heater, it stays stable around these degrees, and it's perfectly fine for Otocinclus as well as the shrimp that I'm keeping in here. But I do want to point out that even though I tried to raise the temperature and then raise it back, or lower it back down to see if that would trigger a spawn, it didn't, and I've honestly had more luck keeping the temperature as I usually do and getting a trigger spawn with water changes. Now putting this into the perspective of catfish breeding has helped incredibly so, and this is because they all have this certain techniques that work for them. And so even though Otocinclus were kind of rare to be bred in captivity, it's actually just as easy for them to. It's just a matter of having the right trigger spawn. It's all about triggering them to spawn, and luckily we know how to do that with catfish like plecos and corridoras, so this has been really extremely helpful. Now other catfish tend to like soft water as well, and the same goes for Otocinclus. My KH is at 6 and my GH is at 5, and this is very soft water. Now if you're water is on the more harder side of things, I would probably suggest using something to make the water softer. I think that there are products that you can use to make it softer, and so I would definitely recommend that for Otocinclus because they really do like the soft water. You can even go as far as making it a bit acidic. I use CO2 in the tanks. Now, I did breed Ottos before I used CO2, so I'm not saying that this is a trigger, but I did do a bit of research and I found that Otocinclus tend to live in a mild acidic waters, so they definitely can tolerate it and more than tolerate it. So it's something that's worth a shot and that you can try. And it also can help change other parameters. Now, I'm no expert on CO2, so don't quote me on this, but it's definitely just worth a try if you're having trouble trying to get them to, and your plants will be extremely happy. Now, another common method that I tried for doing the rainfall trigger is to simulate rainfall. And to do this, I tried a various amount of ways, and you probably seen in these clips. So I first tried just with a hose going around the tank various amount of times and just trying to make it so that the Ottos could feel water falling on them. And after that, I tried with a pasta strainer, and I just used a strainer to make it so that it had a bit more of a rainfall effect because it was more drizzling but a bit harsher because I'm still getting water from the hose. Now, of course, you can't really do this if your water has chlorines or chloramines. So what I recommend would be to dechlorinate water if your tap has those, and to try with a bucket over. Nowadays, there are installments or little attachments that are not that expensive that you can buy for any of your sinks, and you can use it to make your tap water safe and drinkable as well as usable for your tanks. You just have to make sure that whatever brand you get says what they remove, because you want to be sure that the filter is removing those things. Now, again, while I can't prove that this simulation of rain or the falling of rain into the tank has an effect, I can say that this was my preferable method, and that was to use an attachment for my hose. And because I fill the tank with a hose, just having it on the shower effect was really my best option. And again, I just can't prove that this is needed, but it is something to try again if you're desperate like me. And this did actually help a lot. Not the temperature change at all, not the ice, just a big 50% water change, because you really want them to think that they're in a rainy season. And some people even go as far as evaporating their tank for some time and having it filled up in another moment. And that could also be another way to get them to spawn, because they will think that it's dry season for a very long time, and then when you hit them with a big water change or filling up the tank, they will be aware that it's a good time to breed. And again, going back to breeding other catfish in general, usually when rainy season occurs in the wild, a lot of protein or live microorganisms come down and wash over them as well with this rain. So that's why protein and a sudden change of very high protein in their diet with a water change could very much help them to get the trigger, because they're going to think that they came with the water change like they would with rain. Now, brine shrimp would not come with Otocinclus in the wild. However, they don't need that much specific. And if you do want to include other freshwater organisms, I also try to feed Daphnia, and I have a live culture of Daphnia. And I also have a live culture of the copepods. Now, the copepods are just super tiny, and so they're not always going to find them, and Daphnia can easily get away from Otocinclus. So for the Daphnia, I definitely recommend feeding them frozen, and for the copepods, well, they will find them. It just won't be the most reliable source of protein for them. Now, I do have a care playlist on Otocinclus, and it includes a lot of information on how to feed them, what to feed them, and when to feed them, and I definitely recommend checking it out because it's information that isn't so overly shared, and it needs to be, because Otocinclus, they can't overeat. They are lucky in that sense, but unlucky in the sense that people tend to underfeed them, and they tend to take out veggies way too quickly. And so I definitely recommend checking those videos out, and I will link the playlist above on the right hand corner. So definitely check that out because it will help the most to have a great diet for your Otocinclus and to keep them alive to be able to breed them. Now, my Otocinclus have been in the heat for many months now, and what I mean by that is that they've been trying to, or the female has been trying to lay her eggs, get them fertilized, and lay them. Now, I think that my males are not at age. I have reason to believe that they are premature because they're acting like they don't know what to do in the situation. They, even at one point, the males thought they were the female. One of them was the female and tried to do the whole scenario, but it's just she's never laid her eggs. She keeps trying, it's just not happening. So I definitely think that my Otocinclus right now are just not mature enough or sexually mature, and I honestly don't know when that will be. Now, they do keep trying consistently, so I'll just have to wait it out and see what happens. But it's really great to know that I've found a very solid way for this to continue to happen, and I hope that you guys can get the luck with this information as well, because it would be amazing to see more Otocinclus breeders as we need them, and especially for keeping the fry alive, which will be the major part later on. But the first part will definitely be getting people to breed them.